Hello, my name is Jessica Mostert, and I'm a Family Learning Specialist for the National Center for Families Learning. Welcome to Understanding the Play Cycle. Play is the highest expression of human development in childhood, for it alone is the free expression of what is in a child's soul. I love that quote. I feel like it's a great one to get this play cycle snapshot started, because it really does help us frame how important play is. And we know that play is really important, and we set our classrooms up accordingly. And this play cycle gives us a little bit of a framework underneath that play and why it's so important. So today we're going to review the play cycle, talk about how best to use it in your classroom, and then also how the play cycle can be used at home. The Play Cycle is a book called The Play Cycle: Theory, Research, and Application by Pete King and Gordon Strook. The play cycle consists of the play drive, play cues, play return, play frame, play flow, and play termination. I'm going to give you an example from my life that kind of helps step through what the play cycle can look like. Play drive is the beginning. Children can jump in at any point, but play drive is the beginning of play. So one morning at breakfast, my child and I were sitting, we were eating breakfast, and kind of already started thinking about play. He was talking a little bit about it. And then towards the end of breakfast, he saw some just plastic necklaces that were on the floor, and he said that's what he wanted to play with. So it's kind of like that drive to play, that interest, that want, talking about it, is just a human nature. It's in our nature to want to play. And then the cues are the things in our environment that might say, hey, let me explore this more. Then he kind of hopped down from the table, cleared his plate, and said, Mama, do you want to play with me? And the play return is me saying, yeah, I absolutely do. Let me just clean up breakfast and I'll be in there in a moment. So that return is when I'm giving back some feedback saying, I absolutely want to play with you. He also got some play return from the material itself, because I could hear him lifting up the necklaces and kind of letting them spill back on the floor, and they make a wonderful sound. He found a bowl to collect them in. So he got some return there from the actual material. The play frame is how we set up play. It's the boundaries or the rules almost. So by the time I made it over to where he was playing, he let me know that we were going to be playing treasure, and we needed to guard the treasure and collect more. So he kind of gave me the rules of how he'd like to play. So if I came in with a dump truck and I said, I want to play dump trucks, that doesn't fit the play frame that he had created. So that play frame's kind of like where they want to play within, that kind of world that they want to play in. And then play flow, which is like the sweet spot where the play actually started to happen. So we went outside, and I was guarding the treasure and closer to the treasure, and Pim was walking back and forth on our sidewalk, making sure that the treasure was safe. Then he went into collecting more treasure and bringing it up to the porch and sorting it out to keep it, all the sticks were together and the rocks were together, and of course the necklaces were all together. And while the play changed slightly over those about 30 minutes that we played, it was all in the same vein of guarding and collecting. And so sometimes he was able to play all by himself. That was just, he played and without me. And then there are other moments in that where he needed me to engage and collect something for the treasure that was on the porch. And then play termination is the end of play. So I had a call, and so I had to say, Bud, in 5 minutes, we're heading inside. And so that's how that play ended. And when we got inside, it didn't continue. That game was over, that play was done. And he read a book for a little bit. So that was me stopping the play, but sometimes children stop it themselves. They're done with that play and they're going to move on to the next thing. So that's the play cycle, the play drive, play cue, play return, play frame, play flow, and then play termination. So I'll talk a little bit about each part of the stages. Play drive. It's a human need. It's the want or need to explore materials, to find out more. And with young children, they do it through play. And we just need to make sure as teachers that our environments are set up for that. And This for me gives me the why behind what we're doing that for. The why is to help really increase that play drive and make sure children, and we respect the play drive that children have. Play cues is that invitation to play. It was that that seeing those necklaces on the floor. It could be from a toy like the necklaces. It could be from a classmate, or a teacher could do a play cue. It's the invitation. And they can be subtle or overt. A subtle one could be a marker rolling off a table and a child wants to go and know more. That's just, that invitation was that plop onto the floor and the child's off to explore what's happening. More overt ones could be like what my son said to me, "Mama, do you want to play?" And those happen all the time in our classrooms. The play return you can think of as the feedback or the response to the play. So for me, it was, "Yep, I'll be there in a minute." And then with the necklaces, it was really kind of just that, that plopping on the floor and picking back up. Those sounds was just a response as well, for a way to play. So you can think about the play cue as the invitation and the play return as the feedback. The play frame are the rules of the context, and not like the rules of the classroom, but actually the rules of how children are going to engage in that moment, the way they're playing. This can be a pretty quick process, especially if children know each other or have familiar materials, or it can take a lot of time to kind of hash out the details. And I think we should build over here. The children can kind of go back and forth. It can sometimes seem like a conflict, but make sure that when you are in situations like that you recognize, is this a real conflict, or do they just have two really good ideas that they're trying to decide where to come to a middle ground? And the three types of play frames are physical play frames, and these will all sound so familiar to you as preschool teachers. The physical play frame is bases and boundaries. You can think of an outside play where the base is over here. So they're giving that boundary. Don't go past this because this is where base is. And then the narrative play is like what my son and I engaged in, which is we had a storyline that we were following, and we had to stay within that play. And again, if I brought a dump truck in and pretended it was a construction site, that would be a different play frame, a different narrative play frame. And then an emotional play frame where children can explore emotions and talk through that. And then play flow, we call this a sweet spot. It's where we really want to have as much time as possible in that play flow. There's almost a quiet hum in your classroom that you can know that everyone's in it. They're doing their play, and then really make sure that you've planned time for that. That's why we say at least 45 minutes. That gives children plenty of time. Because it would be so frustrating to set up, get all the way through the play frame, how you're going to play, and then it's time to clean up. So those longer periods of time are really beneficial to get children to have longer times in play flow. And this play flow can last for weeks. As a teacher, you might remind them and say, "Oh, don't you remember yesterday you were doing the dishes after you'd made a meal with your friend?" And that could get them back into that play pretty quickly. Or they might let you know that they're all done with that. But it's a good thing to know how children are playing to kind of help prompt them potentially to get back into play flow. It could also last for just moments. They might play what they need to play and be done. That's the next step. So play termination, it's the end of play. And sometimes children walk away and that's the end, that they're done playing. And other times it's adult ended, like when I said I had to call and had to go inside. So it can be ended by the child or the adult. If it is ended by the child, make sure you understand why they're ending their play. It could be that they're just done. It could be a place where you can extend and help them. Maybe they've run into a problem and they don't know how to solve it. So you can extend by adding a material or talking them through something, or they might just be done, and recognize that line too. So you're not trying to control their play and have them stay longer than they're interested in. So the play cycle during Wonderwork Share, I think this is so fascinating because I do think it can really help children who are struggling during play. Maybe a child walked into a play frame and picked up a dinosaur, but the other child was building a dinosaur city. And so they had this play frame problem. And so instead of me coming over and say, "Oh, you need to share that," really kind of help reframe your conversation with the children and help them understand what's happening. And it might end up that one of the children needs to share the dinosaurs because the other one doesn't have any to play with. But just kind of think about how you can help children who are struggling, or maybe they missed a play cue. It's important to see where children are in play in your classroom. Pause, talk, and listen to children. This will help you understand more about their play, what they're playing, and maybe what they'll need in play. It will also help you with anecdotal notes. You'll be able to write down more information about them if you kind of keep a close ear on their play. And then, of course, help them extend play. Like I said, they might need a material. They may need a book in your classroom if they're building something, and a book would help them give a visual for a structure they'd like to build. So just kind of think about how you can take their play and extend it. It could be with a written note on their near or on their play. So teaching the play cycle during parent time is something that can be really valuable to families when they're at home. We want to encourage play at home as well, so how they can kind of help structure that. So one way to teach parents is to give examples, kind of like I did with my son. You could give examples as well as where you see it in the classroom, and it really helps it come to life, and you can see that scenario playing out either in your home or in your classroom. You can really teach families ways to observe. There are really good ways to write down notes or just kind of be more aware of the good ideas that your children are coming up with, or maybe places that they struggle. If they get really stuck in the play frame and are having a hard time getting all the rules hashed out, that could be something that you can teach parents how to just observe that. Teach it one step at a time. That'll really help families understand how they kind of go from one phase to the other, and when you slow it down, they can kind of see it in their own lives, because as adults we also go through a play cycle. I know that I do. When I'm working, I'll make sure everything's organized, and I'll organize papers, or maybe clean off my whiteboard to organize my thoughts, and then I can like really dive into what I would call play flow or workflow, where I can get a whole lot done. So I had to kind of set up myself to get a whole lot done. And when you start to see that in your own lives, it's easier to understand it and to see it in your children. These can open up conversations and talk about how their child plays at home. You might learn a whole lot about home environment that way. And then practice play. So make sure you encourage adults and children to play. For the play cycle at home, parents can do wonder work share at home, teaching them the steps of how to wonder, do the work, that kind of play and get into play flow, and then share out what did they do and how did they play. You can teach families to rely on open-ended materials. They don't need all the latest and greatest or all the toys that you have in your classroom in order to do this at home. It's also important to teach families how to schedule play every day. We can help families learn how to put a schedule in place that would include stories and other pieces, but we can also help them know that 45 minutes of play every day is really important. And with this framework, they might be able, it'll help them implement it easier, because they'll be able to see where their children are in play. So again, families learning that play structure, like I said, really provides structure. It gives them an idea of where to start, or be able to say like, oh, I need to add this material to help my child out. They can help their children with play if they know that they're struggling in a certain part. Maybe they missed a play cue, or you could remind them again, say, do you remember yesterday we played guarding the treasure? Would you like to do that again? Just kind of helping families know when to prompt and get their children back into play. They can prepare materials at home. Those open-ended materials are around us. We can find them in recycled items and outdoors to really get engaged. And then this can open up conversations about play between yourself and the families that will help you understand what's happening at home. In conclusion, be aware of the play cycle. The play cycle is a powerful framework to understand how children play and help you reframe the way you interact during Wonder Work Share. Play every day. Play is so much fun. And when we know more about play, we can engage in it in a different way and encourage children to continue to play. Think about your schedule and how you can teach families a schedule as well that includes play every day with those long chunks of playtime. That will help benefit children. Thank you for listening to Understanding the Play Cycle Learning Snapshot.